When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Yeah, I personally don't think he's going to give up. Knowing KGB, just their KGB strategies, expansion of the country. And they know, think about this, our adversaries know the window they can play in because they know it's closing November 4th. We're going to have elections. Depends on who gets elected, what's going to happen. Who knows? But right now, I've never seen so many wars in my life living.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's scary. And, you know, I talked about the border crisis earlier, and I mean, it is a crisis.
Absolutely. It's a full-blown invasion because people are in denial. I don't know why people are in denial that we had, 8 million people that come across our country illegally? It just opened the gates.
Yeah, for the sanctity of our own national security. I mean, we've opened the floodgates and let in people. And it's been all over the media. I mean, there's fighting age males coming from all over the world. And a lot of them are coming from countries that don't like us.
That's a fact.
You know, there's been a lot of weird stuff that's happened underneath this administration. You know, I laugh about it, but the spy balloon.
No, I mean, holy crap!
It's almost like we've gone back in time, and we're using all these. But I mean, I think that's a good point, though. Is that, you know, we've become so reliant on technology that, and even with the combat in Ukraine, like, we're not relying as much on technology for the ground soldiers as we were in GWAT. I mean, radios and stuff like that, it's all getting jammed. GPS, it gets jammed. So we've had to get back to more of a primitive way of fighting. But I mean, you know, who in the world would have thought in 2023, I think it was 2023, that, you know, we'd have had a balloon, fly over, and one of our $60 million jets would have to shoot it out of the sky. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. But that right there shows that, I mean, everybody's trying to use something to counter the other person. And I mean, whether we like it or not, you know, there's a global conflict going on right now. And, you know, I think a lot of it, I don't know. And what you said with all of our adversaries rising up, I mean, you look at what's going on in Israel, you look at, you know, Taiwan and China, South China Sea. I mean, the Chinese have been messing around in the South China Sea for a while, you know, while we were all focused on the Middle East, you know, the Chinese were building up in the South China Sea and, you know, all that good stuff. I mean, there's a lot of major things that are happening right now that if they all come to a head, it's not going to be pretty.
No. And I wonder this too, Mike. Is this a distraction from our politicians to not broker a deal and get peace restored in Ukraine? Maybe it's a distraction for media, so we're not worried about what's happening on our U.S. soil and focus on other, like China. Because everybody says, oh, Russia's our biggest adversary. China's our biggest adversary. Well, we have a bigger problem here with the freaking border wide open and the gates wide open and people pouring in. It's like, maybe it's propaganda, false information.
I think it all stems to the same thing. I mean, you know, if you look at Rome, you know, the way Rome collapsed was from the inside. And
absolutely,
you know, America 100% is the strongest country in the world, military wise. And, you know, for a full scale, for an invasion or something, you know, that'd be almost impossible for any country to do. So the only way to really collapse the United States is from the inside. And if you look at the infighting and the divide that we have in our country now, I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, are we being, you know, these information campaigns being taken over into our own country and pitting us against each other and as a distraction while everybody else comes in, and then next thing we know, we're in an armed conflict in our own country.
Well, yeah, you know what? I think Americans, like, we're all like we've been in a pot of boiling water. We didn't realize it. And you came over from Europe and you just got here. what is your feeling, and what do you see that we don't see because we've been in it? What are you seeing from your viewpoint, being a veteran patriot coming back to the States for a few weeks? Are you saying what the hell just happened in America? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, man. I mean, people are at each other's throats. I mean, at the mention of any politics, like people instantly divide and just like hate each other. Or, if you say one thing, somebody just hates. I mean, I've seen a lot of support for Ukraine since I come back, and I was in Northern Virginia, and I was driving across kind of the farmlands, and in a farm out in the middle of nowhere, there was a Ukrainian flag flying underneath a U.S. flag, and going down the road, I've seen trucks with Ukrainian flags on it, and there's a lot of support there. But then again, like I've also come across Americans that are like, "Oh, you're fighting. You need to get the hell out of Ukraine. Fuck those guys." Like, really? Like, nah, man. Like, do you even know what's going on there? I mean, even some people in my own family have made
Wow.
comments and stuff, and I'm like, we've lost the sense of right and wrong, and it's being replaced with politics. And
Power.
even with like the border and immigration and stuff. I mean, you look at the governor in Texas when he started busing illegals to these different cities and stuff. I mean, right there, like these cities are like, oh yeah, save these guys. We should be letting them in. But as soon as they get put in their backyard, now they're all like, oh, well, now we need to do something. I mean, it's politics is the root of all evils.
Absolutely, it is. Yep. I've never met
Well,
a broke politician.
I was about to say that and money.
Yep. Yep. It's
But it all boils down to money.
it does.
The rich is getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and unfortunately, the poor are the ones that have to endure the hardships and pay the price.
Now, what do you see yourself doing after the Ukraine? When you feel like you're going to have closure and you did what you could do for Ukraine and move on in your life? Do you see that happening in the future for you? Or you kind of your calling is you go back to Ukraine? That's kind of your calling.
I don't think that I'll ever be able to just say I'm done with Ukraine. I've been there for 2 years, and I've created a network and friends that are like family. And I'm a very loyal person, and I never turn my back on them. And I'll continue to do as much as I possibly can to help. You know, there's a few things that I've been thinking is, my whole thing since I've been there is, I'm one person, and how can I help out the most? What is the most effective way to help? And picking up a rifle and going in the trenches and fighting, as glorious as that sounds, is not the most effective way. And I largely believe that this won't be this war will not end. The trenches is not gonna win this war. It's not gonna be won in the trenches. So you have to look at other angles. So I'm starting to consider other options, but it will still be in the same. It will be in support of Ukraine, and how I can affect the most change there, and being back here in the States and getting in front of the right people and telling my story, I think has a large part with what I should do and how we can help the most. Because I feel like a lot of people in the United States have no idea what's actually going on there and the extent of how bad it is. So I'm taking that knowledge and I'm talking to people and influential people and trying to garner more support. At some point there may come a time when there's a compromise or, I don't know what it looks like when it ends. It's just too convoluted right now. I think everybody would love for there to be a straight up victory where we just go all, kick the shit out of the Russians, push them out of Ukraine, and the Russians bow down and say, all right, we're sorry that we're done. But unfortunately, I don't think that'll happen. And, I think, I don't know.
Mike Hill for congressman or senate.
No, hell no. Not a chance, buddy. Not a chance.
No way,
Um,
Jose. Don't put me in that tar
I,
pit.
nah, I mean, there's people that need to do that, and that are good at that. But
Yeah.
and talking to those people and letting them hear the story and all that stuff is more the route I would go. But I don't think I'd ever run for office. Yeah.
You'd be more interested in meeting with like maybe senators and congressmen and say, hey, this is what I've been dealing with. This is what I've seen over there.
100%.
This is the intel
Yeah,
I've seen. This is what I hear on the ground. That's very valuable.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Ukrainian people need us. I mean, at one time, our country was viewed as a beacon of hope. It was a strong country, and everybody was very proud to be American. And, I feel like we've lost that. And, there's a lot of people that hate us, and we've kind of lost our ways here in the United States. And Ukraine reminds me of what I would think, the U.S. was in like the 40s and 50s.
Good point.
They're very patriotic. They love their country. Nobody thought they would last 3 days, and here we are 2 years later.
Who would have guessed, right?
They're still fighting. And, they need to have the support of the rest of the world behind them, because they can't do it without them. And they know that. And it's not like they're asking us to put boots on the ground or anything like that. They're literally asking us for weapons so that they can defend their homeland and take back what is theirs.
Mike, I got to ask you this question. I have a lot of friends that are conservative, and they bring up this idea to me that the president of Ukraine is a freaking dictator, and he's money laundering and all this other stuff. What can you tell the audience of what you've heard and seen over there of that? I don't buy it, but that's what I hear. A lot of my conservative friends tell me that, it's a conspiracy theory of the Biden administration. I'm like, I don't know if I buy that.
Man, I mean, everybody talks about corruption, and I don't care where you live. If you have politics, there's corruption, and the U.S. has it right here in our own country.
Yep.
I think Zelensky has done a good job up until this point. There's obviously some things that I don't agree with. I mean, you can't agree 100% with somebody, but he stood strong when the Russians invaded his country, and he didn't flee. He stood with his people, and that's one thing I respect about him.
Totally.
For a while, everybody was all pro Zelensky, and everybody supported him. And we were talking about the disinformation campaigns and stuff. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to believe that there's just loads of money that's going into Zelensky's pockets, and he's just doing whatever he wants while the rest of his country. I mean, could it be happening? I mean, I guess, yeah, but I mean, they don't really have the room to be
blowing money.
I mean, obviously, there's been instances of people being caught as being corrupt, and Zelensky's fired people and arrested people, and so. But to say he's the end all be all, I mean, I can't say that, because I mean, to cancel the elections, I think was a bad move on his part. I think the people should have had a little bit more of a say, and that would have given him a little bit more respect. But I think the other thing that we're starting to face is that the realization of what's going on and the fear of everybody just kind of ditching them. People are starting to kind of take sides and decide, well, if this falls out, what am I going to do? So, I mean,
fact. Yeah.
Like I said, man, like I really haven't gotten down into the politics. I believe in Ukraine. I'm there with them. And I'll continue to support them. But to say that there's zero corruption in Ukraine, I can't say that. And I can't say that about my own country.
Yeah, that's a fact. Because I know the big concern too is, they heard there's some Catholic churches that were locked down and priests were arrested over there or something. They don't have religious freedom over there. I'm like, well, maybe Mike knows.
That's 100% not true. I mean, yes, there were Catholic or Orthodox priests that were arrested, and Zelensky banned the Russian Orthodox Church, largely because they were FSB agents. I mean, they were
Oh,
spies.
interesting.
They were, I mean, they were
Oh,
spies.
okay.
So that's
That makes sense now.
I've had this own conversation with my own family members that are like, oh, well, they ban religion. You can't, I can't support. I'm like, no, they didn't ban religion. They're actually some of the most religious people I've ever met. The churches over
Wow.
there are absolutely beautiful. They're very, very, very religious. I mean, Sundays in Ukraine are a time of rest, and people relax. They go out, they walk with their families. You know, they're very religious. I mean, are there some extremists on right and left? 100%. I mean, but I mean it's just like
Hmm.
America. I mean, as a whole, the Ukrainian people are 100% awesome, and they don't deny religious freedoms. I mean, I've seen Muslims, I've seen uh, Christians. I mean, I mean Jewish. I mean, Ukraine has a huge, they have a huge Jewish population.
Isn't that
And don't
interesting?
quote me on
I
this.
find that fascinating.
I want to say it's in the top five largest
Wow.
Jewish populations in the world. And also, I've heard that there was 60% of the Jews that made up Israel or started Israel came from Ukraine. So,
Wow.
I mean,
Interesting.
there's a lot more, and that all goes down to propaganda. Well, it's just like Putin saying they're Nazis. I mean, all right. If
Yeah,
you
how
want
can
to
you be
go back in
Nazi
history
when?
and look at World War II,
Yeah.
Ukraine was caught between two enemies. What's that?
Yeah, it's like
You there?
he's called them Nazis, but I know Zelensky, he's Jewish descent, is he not? But he calls him a Nazi, nationalist. I'm still here, Mike. Got a bad connection or something. Sorry about that, folks. Had a bad connection. He'll probably come back in a minute. But hope you guys enjoyed
Hey,
that
buddy,
piece
there?
with Mike Hill. He's on the front lines, like you said, and with Ukrainians and people from other countries helping fight the war in
All right.
Ukraine. And here Mike's back, folks. Here he's back. We got you. All
Yeah, I
right.
got you.
But yeah, I was saying it's interesting to me that people calling them Nazi nationalists, but I think I heard even Putin say that Zelensky's Jewish national descent. It's like, okay,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Zelensky's Jewish. I mean, I've met with the head rabbi of Ukraine. I mean, I mean, are there extremists? Yeah. I mean, there's some, I don't know what you would call them.
yeah,
But I mean, it's just like here in the States. But what I was going to say is if you go back in history and you look
yeah.
at
Go
World
ahead.
War II,
Mhm.
is that, Ukraine was caught between two large armies, the Germans and the Russians. And, even before World War II, you had the Volodymyr, which was like the Ukrainian Holocaust, where the Russians like starved out all. God, you there?
I think you need to get closer to your Wi-Fi at your house. I'm here. Yeah, get closer to your Wi-Fi at your house. Okay. I think he's having technical issues, folks. So I'm going to wait for him to come back, and hopefully he connects to his Wi-Fi. Okay. I think he's coming back. Yeah, there he is. Okay. Mike, if you could connect to your Wi-Fi, it might help with your signal strength.
There you go. I got you now.
Perfect.
So what I was saying is, and before World War II, you had the Volodymyr, and that was like the Ukrainian Holocaust, where the
Mm-hmm.
Russians actually like starved out Ukrainians, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it was in the millions Ukrainians that died during that. There's actually a memorial in Kyiv signifying that. But then, you move into World War II and you got the Germans coming from one side and the Russians coming from the other. And I mean, there was Ukrainians that made the decision to side with the Germans because the Germans treated them like humans, whereas the Russians were overrunning them, coming in, raping, pillaging, and just taking everything for their own. And so, there were Ukrainians that fought with the Germans. But, you know, that's all. I mean, it's history, and you have to understand more of the actual problem and the things behind it before you go making judgments. But to say that they're modern day Nazis, like that's absolutely insane.
Isn't it? Yeah, I agree totally. And then I find out, well, Zelensky is actually Jewish national. He's Jewish.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, where is the German Nazi there? It's like, okay. How is he a dictator? He's trying to save his country, his countrymen.
100%. And you know what, man? Like, he's not just sitting in an office in Kyiv all the time. Like, he goes to the front. Like, I've been to places where he was at, and I know the extent of what's going on there. And, that takes courage to go there. I mean, to be the president of the country and to support your troops like that, that's a true leader.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm not saying he's like the end all be all, but I mean, I have respect for the man.
Sure. Have you ever met him in person?
I have not.
Gotcha. So the military, the Ukrainian military, are they pretty active running everything because it's their country, their sovereign land? So they're probably running all the ops over there.
Oh yeah, 100%. The Ukrainians are 100% in charge. I mean, they're fighting for their own country. I mean, there's no other countries that are in there running operations for them. They're doing their own thing.
So is there a joint task force from other countries coming in and ad hoc? Like, is that going on? Like, everybody supporting them?
I mean, that's above my head, and I mean, I would assume so with the amount of stuff that's coming in. I'm sure there's advisors, and I know we have an embassy in Ukraine, and other countries have embassies in Ukraine. I mean,
sure.
I would assume that stuff's going on, but I mean, again, that's above my head, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's the more tech, IT, intel stuff going on, sharing information and trying to figure out how to survive. But I got a lot of respect for you doing what you do over there, Mike, and I'm going to start calling you Mike 9 Lives.
Don't do that, man. Don't jinx me.
Don't jinx you. So, are you enjoying your stay? You have plans to be in States for a few more weeks, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, I'll be here for a few more weeks. Right now I'm just decompressing and spending some time with family and catching up with people I haven't seen in a while. And I get to see my my new nephew.
Oh, nice.
Was born in September, so I haven't seen him yet. So it'll be nice to see him and spend some time with them. And but obviously in the back of my head, everything's still going on, and I'm worried about what's going on over there, and I hate to see what's going on, and I'd love to be right back over there right now, but I'm doing what I can from where I'm at right now.
Now, when you get some military supplies when you're at the front lines, does Ukraine support that for you, provide that for you because you're in the trenches with them, or do you have to get that yourself, or how does that work for your being independent, foreign country? How does that work?
I mean, I'm kind of hands off on all that, man. They have their processes and the way they go about things, and obviously, like different governments are handing everything to them, and
Gotcha.
They do their own thing. I mean, I'm comfortable with where I'm at and what I do, and
What is your advice to some guys that might get the itch to want to be Mike Hill over in Ukraine and leave the P industry stateside, let's say, and they want some more action and they want to go over there? What's your advice to those folks? Stay home?
Honestly, yeah, man. Unless you have some special operation experience or have a vast amount of military experience, I mean, it's not a place to go get your warm and fuzzy just because you want to get some action. I've seen a lot of guys come over there that didn't know anything, and they're in the middle of the largest war since World War II, and some of them don't make it. I mean, it just, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. It's not Call of Duty. It's not a game.
Mm.
And in some aspects, some Westerners that have come over, and joined different units and stuff have caused more problems than they have helped.
Do you see more ego
So,
involved with those folks?
yeah, a lot of egos. It's,
Hmm.
I mean, sadly to say, I think it's a lot of guys that, um, just want to come over and get the story, and to get their kicks.
Wow.
When they actually get there, it's, reality hits, and it's like, holy shit, like,
What am I
this
doing
is pretty
here?
serious. Yeah.
You see the look
So,
on their face when
I
they
mean,
realize it's not playtime, it's war.
yeah. I'd be glad to talk to anybody that's considering that, to kind of point them in the right direction. But, just because you're in the EP industry doesn't quite qualify you to go into a full combat zone. I mean, it's two different
No, not at
things.
all.
So,
Yes, that's really good advice. Yeah, I think Mike's having Wi-Fi issues over there, in and out. But Riverside's a pretty good platform to record on. He'll be back with us in a minute. We're going to wrap up this podcast here in a minute, but give him a second.
yeah, man, this is a problem
He's
with living
frozen
out
up.
in the boonies.
So yeah, folks, I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. And oh, there he is. He came
Yeah, I'm
back.
back.
Wi-Fi connections.
This is the problem with living in the boonies.
Yeah, Wi-Fi, cell phone service, towers.
So,
That's
yeah,
good advice,
100%.
Mike, for the EP folks advising them not to come, because you're actually in the middle of a war, not an EP project.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're wanting to go over and volunteer and help in a support role, then 100%, man. Like, there's a lot of medical stuff that could be helped with, teaching, stuff like that. But, I mean, you need to be qualified to go over and do it. I mean, you can't just decide, hey, I'm going to do this and then go and do it, because, you're actually dealing with life or death, and, it's not a game.
Very well said. Well, for the audience listening, this is Mike Hill. He's back home from Ukraine, been over there for 2 years fighting in different capacities, medical support, that type of thing, and other capacities, which I don't want to go into too much detail to protect himself from Russian intelligence and all that. He's a good friend of mine. I've known Mike for many, many years, and I have a lot of respect for what he's doing. I have the goodness of his heart going to Ukraine. If you want to follow Mike, he's on LinkedIn. He's on there once in a while. He's on Facebook as well, but he's definitely on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions for him, feel free to reach out to him. He's on Facebook here and there, but I'm sure right now he wants to rest, recharge his batteries, and enjoy family time at the moment.
Right on. I appreciate you having me, man. I appreciate you helping me get the story out, and I appreciate all your support. And I appreciate all the guys that reached out when I got sick and was willing to come and get me out. So I appreciate all you guys.
There's a few on Facebook private group that were about ready to go over there. We're all about ready to go over there and fly and find you, pull you out of there.
I definitely appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the chance when we can all get back together again. It seems like the EP industry is doing really well, and I've noticed there's a lot more mixers and stuff that are the networking opportunities that are going on, and I'm glad to see that, because when I started my journey into the EP industry, it was a small industry, and networking is what got me to where I got, and for all those guys that are just starting out, like, networking is key. So, keep up the good work.
And there you have it for Mike Hill, you're Army veteran. And what was your MOS in the Army? What'd you do?
I was an 11 Bravo.
11 Bravo. There you have it. But that's Mike Hill joining us from East Coast, from Ukraine, and I call him my modern day superhero, saving lives overseas.
I appreciate it, man. I'm no hero, though.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming on. Thanks, folks. And go to YouTube, folks. And hit the like button, subscribe button. It helps with the algorithms. And go to our podcast platforms and give us a good rating. And with that said, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fearless Mindset podcast. And thanks for tuning in.